right, we're back for another round. Um, where are we going to get into today? We are going to talk about some things that you might not know about. We're going to do a little. I'm trying to do like a new segment. We'll see if it works. If it works, let me know. You guys who have been following long enough to know, um, let me know if stuff works and it doesn't. Anyway, um, let's get started. We're going to do a little bit of housekeeping, you know, like always. Um, okay, let's get going. So, this past week, first off, I had a big faux pas last week on the podcast. I forgot to say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Without you, none of us would be here. You know what I mean? So, I just want to thank all the mothers, especially the ones that are in my life. Love y'all. If you're listening, and if you're not, and if you can't be a mother, you're a mother to somebody. Guarantee it. So, we love you all. Anyway, getting back onto that, I gotta make penance whenever I can. Getting back to it. So, I think a couple episodes ago we were talking about the hailstorm a little bit, and we were getting into that, and yeah, just the things that incur with that. I realized, what is insurance good for? You know what I mean? Like, period. You know, it's only there if you don't need it, right? If you're trying to do an insurance claim, and if any of you are insurance agents, please reach out to me because I would love to talk to you. I know that's not whiskey related, but good Lord, we need to talk. Um, because my work truck got damaged, and I sent it into the body shop to get it looked at to get an estimate to see what it would be to replace the windshield, replace some running lights, just fix it up. There was something else wrong with it. I wanted to have them look at that too. Long story short, they do all that. Then my wife lets me know that, oh, the whole time the insurance company sent a check. Great. They sent money. Great. Um, but me being the person I am, I can't afford to pay for my work van, so I have a lien on it, right, with a credit bureau or credit union, and so the check was made out to me and the credit union. Cool. So I said, okay, I'm just going to cash it. Well, you can't cash it, obviously. Okay, so you have to deposit it in the credit union. Okay, cool. Let's do that. But they wouldn't deposit it because whoever did the estimate for the repairs didn't put the right VIN number. Yeah, yeah, that's a thing, I guess. And the wrong year of vehicle. And so I'm like, so I send him this check, certified mail, cost me money, obviously, to send it to him, just so I can get repairs done on the vehicle. And I'm like, okay, so can we work on it? Can we do it? Like I told the body shop or the shop to fix whatever needed to be fixed. And of course they haven't done it. Whatever. That's a whole nother story. But um it's like, really? Like, so they sent the check back because it had the wrong VIN number and the wrong year. Instead of like depositing it and saying we can't do any repairs or whatever on it until we get this corrected. You know what it's for. The check says it's for X. The paperwork says for different. It You know that I don't have any other loans with you for another vehicle that is a year older or whatever. So it's like the bank can't just take your word for it. The check was correct. The estimate wasn't. So it's like, just say, hey, fix this, bring us the other one. Like, why won't people work with you at all? They do not care, obviously. Um, it's just super frustrating, right? So the whole week I've been limping around in my personal truck. Um, I promise we're going to get into whiskey. I promise. I've been limping around in my personal truck, and just yesterday, which was I'm recording this on Sunday. On Saturday, I was taking my kids to get their mother a Mother's Day present. Yeah, I record these a week ahead of time. Sorry. Um, I try to stay ahead of the game as much as possible. Um, and we were coming back home. All of a sudden, I hear boom, like I ran over something, but there was nothing in the road. Obviously, I get home, and my front tire is leaking air. Of course, you know, the only vehicle I have, the only other vehicle I have to work out of, and it's leaking pretty bad. You can see it, and so I'm like, okay, well, we'll have to get this fixed. The bad thing is, I have when I bought the truck, it was one of those that had those big knobby tires and all that. And I didn't want it. We needed to buy the truck so we could pull an RV. Anyway, long story short, I don't like the tires on it anyway because they don't ride very well. Anyway, long story short, I can't replace four tires. Obviously, that turns into a whole bunch of money. But at the same time, I'm like, great, this is icing on the cake. Yeah, just stick a fork in me. I'm done. After dealing with insurance all week, and it's like when you get hammered again, you get hammered again, and yeah, it's just uh, what we call a shit show. Uh, anyway, so we're gonna move on because my little rant is over now, and just talking about it makes you feel better. You know what I mean? And that's what a lot of this is. Me talking to you guys is a lot of it's therapy for me. Just kind of working through all this in my head. Um, but yeah, it's. I was like, what the heck? Seriously, seriously. So I fixed it today with a patch, and I got to take it in tomorrow, get the tire fixed. Story of my life. Anyway, moving on to whiskey topics. We're gonna do whiskey news. Yeah, y'all don't know about news. I mean, I'm sure you know about news. That was kind of dumb. Sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna try and do this each time, each week, if I can. If there's any whiskey news out there, I've been searching a little bit for it. And if you follow other whiskey podcasts or anything like that, you've probably heard it already because I'm not stealing it from other people, but I'm going off of stuff after I hear it. So if I hear it, somebody else has already talked about it, I'm sure. But I don't know if you guys know Penelope whiskey. If you've seen it in the store, it's a big, beautiful bottle with a big old P on it. They make bourbon. It's a beautiful looking, thing. Well, they are a newer distillery, a couple years old, and they have been sourcing all of their product from MGP. And we've talked at nauseum about MGP. They make great product. Their whiskey is actually really good. I think they use a little bit of a different profile on their mash bill, so it's a little bit different than standard MGP. And then they do finishing options and stuff like that. Long story short, Penelope Whiskey got bought, the actual brand got bought by MGP. Now that's kind of weird, right? So the whiskey company, the distillery, whatever you want to call it, got bought up by one of the biggest whiskey manufacturers in the United States. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean a whole lot, other than they bought it for like hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm like, man, I wish my company was worth that much. Good lord, they're not even, it's just a brand name. That's all it is. It's their whiskey in there anyway. So it's like, what the heck? But so they bought it, and it's going to be in one of their lineups now. The people that work there are still going to work there. They're still going to, they're still going to treat it like that. They're just going to be owned by MGP. So MGP, I don't know what their end game is because obviously I don't work for them or anything like that. But I don't know if they're trying to buy up some of these smaller, if you want to call them smaller, distilleries to have a name place. Because if that was to happen, they already dominate the market in their product. But if they can dominate the market in their distillery reach, oh man, everybody's going to be drinking MGP more than they already are. So yeah, I thought that was kind of strange, but at the same time, kind of like, okay, here we go. Here's the start of the snowball going down the hill where MGP is just going to gobble up all these smaller. I'm not going to say Penelope's craft because I don't know how big they are. I mean, their stuff is on the shelf. Take that for what it is. If you can find it, it's good stuff. I got a 4 grain the other day, cast strength. I haven't broke into it yet, but I got to try a sample of it before I did. It's good. I mean, it's good stuff. 4 grain, so it had some wheat in it. It had wheat and rye. Man, it was good stuff. So I was like, okay, cool. So that's news. All right, let's get on to the topic at hand. This is what everybody's been waiting for. The main events. Yeah. I'm trying to work on, not, um, what's the word? What's the word? Hello? Yeah. What's the word? I don't know what's going on here. Huh. Okay. Anyway, I've been trying to work on having like little segments and working into stuff like that. So anyway, you have to bear with me. We're working on it, and soon, how soon I don't know. But soon I will be doing video as well. Got a new laptop. Anyway, that's a long. I think we already talked about that. Anyway, so I'm gonna start doing video, and I'll put those over on my YouTube. If you didn't know, I have a YouTube page right now. Got I don't know, I think 3 full videos. Well, one of them's not a full video; it's like 2.5 minutes long, and a bunch of shorts of like random things like bottle picks and stuff like that. Anyway, go follow me over there if you want. If you don't, I don't care. Whatever. Okay, let's get into it. Let's talk about barrels, baby. Yeah, I said that. I'm sorry. That was, oh man, I need to stop. Anyway, we're going to talk about barrels. Not just barrels. I don't care about barrels. I mean, I do. They make the whiskey what it is. But we're going to talk about barrel shortage. Yeah, that's a thing. So, I don't know I did a little bit of research on it. I'm trying to do more research on topics as well. That's, for me, I have severe ADHD, in case you didn't already know this. So, like, it's really hard for me to do research on things because, like, I get sidetracked and go down rabbit holes, and next thing you know, I'm looking at why do you paint dogs' toenails, stuff like that. Anyway, I don't know why you actually do that, but anyway, but supposedly there is a barrel shortage. What I think, I'm gonna give you my opinion after talking to a number of people about it with them, and then hearing them post things online and stuff. Basically, what's happening is people like MGP, people like these bigger distilleries, Beam, Daniels, all those have rights to the cooperage as well, right? So they're basically saying these are our barrels for the next X number of years. So let's say a smaller craft distillery, and I'm not picking on the big guys. Like, they deserve to have, I'm not going to say first dibs, but they have the quantity, so they need to have the barrels. I get it. But so what's happening is they're not buying up all the barrels, but they're buying up all the good barrels, right? Because this is the little bit of nerdy part, so just listen. Um, so what's happening is when you make a barrel, it's made out of most barrels, especially for bourbon, are made out of American white oak. They have a specific year that the tree has to be before they cut it down, and then they make a number of different boards out of it. I don't know if you've ever seen how it's made, how they make lumber. It's pretty cool. If you're a nerd like that and you like to know how stuff's made. And so what they do is they take that wood, they cut it into like 1-inch planks, however long, 16, 18, 20 foot, 30 foot, whatever the length of the tree is. They try not to cut it until they get it to the mill, or until they get it to the barrel warehouse, so that they can make as many cuts without having loss. So then what they do is they take all of those planks, or those one-bys, or whatever you would call them, and they yard age them. So they leave them out in the sun, heat, rain, all that stuff. And you really want it to be a minimum of a year. Minimum. There's some Kentucky distilleries that are doing 4-year, 5-year. Excuse me, I need a little drink. They're doing 4-year, 5-year aged wood. What does that do? What is aging the wood? I mean, you age in the wood. You age the whiskey in the wood. You don't age the wood. Well, the wood, when you cut it, obviously, if you've ever cut a piece of wood off a tree, it's very sappy. It's very sticky. It's very wet on the inside. Well, you don't want all that wetness from the wood getting into your whiskey, right? Because it's literally going to make it taste like sap, and it's not going to be good. So you want to dry it. There's two ways to dry, particularly barrels. There's two ways to dry it. You can air dry it or yard age it, right? You just literally stick it on a pallet, stick it outside, let the weather dry it out. Minimum of a year. Or you kiln dry it. Kiln drying, you basically put a heater on it, you heat it up, it dries it out. Simple as that, right? Well, the issue with that, with kiln drying, is it does not let... Oh man, this gets real sciencey, and I'm not trying to go super sciencey. Okay, the cellular oh god, the cellular structure of wood is basically sugar. So long chain sugars, cellulose, stuff like that. So when it's aged outside, it is it's micro oxidizing. Well, when it oxidizes, it breaks down the lignins in the wood, making it easier for the alcohol, the whiskey, to penetrate it and get that sugar out. Those lignins and tannins and all that stuff is what flavors the whiskey. So the longer it ages, the wood, the more it breaks down those chemicals. Now there is probably a stopping point. You don't want to have 200-year-old aged wood because it's going to be probably going to rot. But you want it aged enough to where it's has been able to break down, and it's actually biologically different because you got biological microbes all over it eating the wood, breaking it down even further and even further. That's why when you get old, what they call dry rotted wood, or it just falls apart because the cellular structure on the inside has just been eaten alive by microbes. And there's yeast and microbes on everything in the world. Everything, literally everything, is the most abundant life source in this entire world. So you age it outside to get all of that to happen. Now, it might even get mold and all kinds of stuff on it. Well, what they do is when they cut it too big. So then what they do is they go through and plane it to the way they want it and get all that junk off of there, and it's still aged, right? So it ages all the way through the wood, not just the outside. Because, if you've ever had, stacks of wood outside for, a fireplace or something, you'll see how, the cut ends of it will turn black or get all nasty. That's because the oxidation. Holy wow, that was hard for me to say. A little tongue twisting. Anyway, so the issue with the shortage now, back onto the shortage, they're running out of yard aged wood or the older stuff because they're having to turn and burn so fast to create barrels. So what they're doing is people are getting from other suppliers. Well, let me back up. So what they're doing is they're getting younger and younger age statements. We talked about age statements, right? They're getting younger and younger age statements on the wood, which is weird, right? You would think. But here's the thing. The deforestation part of it, and not being able to renew the resources fast. I think we talked about this as well. Barrels, like whiskey barrels or whatever barrels from the white oak, only takes up 3% of the amount of white oak that's used in the United States or the world. They do ship it overseas as well. The rest is like furniture making, stuff like that. So, your lazy boys probably using more wood than the stinking barrels do. Anyway, going um, back to that. So, what they're having to do, like these bigger distilleries, are having to get younger wood, which it does have a different profile on it. So what they're having to do is they're having to blend it in with, like let's say they have 500 barrels of whiskey and they're blending them and they know that half of them are new, like 2-year-old wood and the other half is 4-year-old wood. They're going to have to blend that out because the flavor profile is going to be a lot different. It's going to be a lot different just because the cellular structure is different. So, what's happening as well is the bigger brands are picking out all the old wood barrels or the old wood for their barrels and leaving the smaller craft distilleries with the leftovers. You get what you get. You know what I mean? And so it's really hard for so it's not really a shortage for the big guys because they're going to get their stuff no matter what. It's a shortage for all of the little guys that are just trying to get their name out there, trying to make good product, not trying to really even compete with, the Jim Beams of the world. They're just trying to do their little niche market in their little niche town. Um, so what they're having to do is they're having to go and source other types of wood from different places. And they're having to get kiln dried or, 12-month old or 8-month old wood. It's still sap. It's still wet, by that point. It's like it hasn't been. So what they'll do is they'll get some yard aged, and then they'll kill and dry the yard aged just to dry it out the rest of the way. So it's kind of like, oh, crap. So a lot of times with some, not all craft, hashtag not all craft whiskeys, but some of the craft whiskeys you'll taste have a little bit of a sappy or green, like cut grass note. And that, not always, it could be fermentation, it could be distillation methods, it could be the type of grains they're using. There's a lot of factors, but it could also be coming from that newer barrel because it just hasn't had time to age. So, what does that mean? What does that mean for us, the whiskey drinker? Well, that means we're gonna have to do more due diligence, right? Um, look at bottles, like we talked about on the last one. Look at the back of the bottles. It's not going to tell you where the wood came from at all. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to go, like, let's say you want to pick up a bottle of Balcones, single malt, which they age a lot of their single malt in new oak barrels. So, yeah. And let's say you want to pick up one of those, go to their website, and then look, and sometimes it says, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know for sure if Balcones says what they have, but at the same time, it's they're using a good cooperage. Now that they have backing from Diageo, they're going to get some good cooperage barrels. Um, but like just kind of taste test if you can before you buy, buyer beware type thing. How long will this last? Well, fortunately and unfortunately, fortunately we are in a whiskey boom right now, which is great. It's great for me, the guy who's trying to ride the coattails of the whiskey revolution that's going on. It's great for me, but also what that means in any sort of system like this, financial, economic, any of those, there is a ebb and flow. So we're at a peak right now. It's only going to go down from here. So what's going to happen is people are going to, people are already onto all these like hard seltzers and ready to drink cocktails in a can type thing. They're fine. Hey, do you? That's fine. So they're like staying away from, the brown spirits as much. So it's going to start ticking down, and sales are going to not. They're not going to diminish a lot because there's a lot of whiskey enthusiasts out there that are making sure that the market isn't um, gonna die, because I don't think it's ever gonna die. But I think that once the hype of the whiskey goes down a little bit, um, it could be 2 years, could be five, depending. It's always going to be prevalent, but right now we're in a huge uptick, because we just went from everybody wanted a single barrel, right? Everybody wanted a single barrel of whiskey, um, to now they're doing single rick house, right? Which means one specific warehouse where they keep their whiskey, right? So then eventually it's going to be, their basic, one distillery, type thing, and then it's going to start all over again, I feel. Um, so yeah, we'll see a tick down in the numbers, and what that'll do is that'll give a time for the wood makers to catch up with what's going on. Okay, so that leads me into, well, what do these craft guys do in the meantime? They can't really, how do you say it? They can't really just not produce product, because they need that revenue to come in so they can continue to have what they have. So what a lot of people are doing, and I know, if you've been in the whiskey scene for a minute or you haven't, there's a bunch of really good finished whiskeys. Now we're gonna kind of change into finished whiskeys. So a finished whiskey is just that. Now sometimes you get into some of these whiskeys and they turn into what they call a distilled spirit specialty, because they are no longer considered bourbon, right? Because it has to be a new American white oak its whole life. Well, they changed the terminology a little bit to where that can include a finishing barrel, as long as the finishing barrel isn't more than the amount of time it was in a new oak barrel. If I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken about that, but if I'm not mistaken, they just let that go. So, what does that mean? Well, that means that as a distillery, you can say, okay, we're going to put, um, again, you still have to have good oak, so it's kind of a thing, but we're going to put our whiskey, let's say a bourbon, we're going to put our bourbon in a new oak barrel for 2 years. Therefore, it can be classified as straight bourbon whiskey. I know you've seen that on the bottle. So then after 2 years, we're going to age it in a old rum barrel for 6 months. Okay, cool. And then we're going to have another release. We're going to do a 2-year-old bourbon, put it in that new barrel, and then we're going to put it in a port, kind of like Angel's Envy. They're doing port finished. So what does that do? Well, the finishing barrel, depending upon the barrel, obviously it's already been used once, so you're not going to get that tannin aspect that you would want, but you're also not going to get that upfront cherry bomb with all of the sugars that we talked about earlier. With all the sugars in there, they're not going to be as present because they already gave up a lot of that to the first liquid that was in there. And a lot of times, if it's a finishing barrel, it's already been used like once before. So it was like probably an old bourbon barrel that they put port into, and then now you're going to take the port out and put more bourbon in it. You know what I mean? So you're not getting hardly any of the influence from the wood at this point. I mean, minute. Obviously, you're getting some. What you're getting is obviously every spirit that goes into a barrel, be it rum, be it a gin, people put absinthe in barrels, whatever. It imparts flavor, especially if it's highly flavored, like a gin or an absinthe or something like that. It's going to impart flavor into that wood. That once you dump it out, it's still in there. And the only, we always play around with scotches that are sherry finished or something like that. How much of that sherry was left in the barrel? You know what I mean? Like, was there a gallon left? Was there 2 gallons left? of sherry just sitting in a barrel, and then they dump whiskey on top of it. You know what I mean? It's like make it a cocktail out of it or something. That's the thing. Is it a fully dry barrel that had sherry in it, but now it doesn't anymore? So that's the other thing with finishing that kind of skirts a guideline, which to me it doesn't matter. I love a good finished whiskey, any of them. I know there's a lot of bourbons out there that are doing it, and they're really amazing, really really good stuff. Um, one and this I got to fanboy out a little bit, but one for me that is super good, um, and it's pretty available, which is kind of nice. Is if you can ever get Saints Alley, has a big essay on it, and it's a taller bottle. It's a partnership between Iron Root Republic out of Denison, Texas, and the Liquor Hound. And what they do is they take, I think it's 50-50, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. Josh Galladay will bust my balls if I, screw that up. I think it's a 50-50 um, Iron Root whiskey bourbon mixed with MGP, and it says it on the back, so it's not, it's not a disclosure thing. But what they do this is what they specialize in is finishing that whiskey, that blend, finishing that blend in different casks, a rum cask, a cognac cask, an Armagnac cask. They just did a rye and a Toki wine barrel, like ice wine kind of thing. So, like, they're doing some really interesting things, really cool stuff. I'm gonna be doing a deep dive on a Saints Alley here soon. Um, it's got a long lineup, man. It's awesome. I'm glad I've got a lineup of whiskeys, and I have the ability to go through and talk about them and talk to you guys about them. Um, but yeah, so they're finishing it, and what it just gives that flavor profile of, especially the Armagnac and the cognac. It gives a lot of that flavor. If you've ever had a good, I'm not saying what is that one? Oh man, I can't think of the brandy that people get all the time, but um, Christensen or something like that. Anyway, um, a little higher, a little better than that. Um, if you've ever had one of those, they're very floral and fruity, and they're not anything like a whiskey would be, but they're also a lot sometimes sweet and really nice. And when you put them in a barrel, all those flavors get into that wood along with the sweetness of the wood, because like I said, it's made of sugars. So when you put your whiskey in there, it just envelops into that. And the longer you let it sit in there, the more it's going to pull out those flavors. Excuse me. I'm not 100% sure how how uh, how long Saints Alley is in the finishing barrel. I will check on that and get back with y'all. Not right now. Yeah, maybe on the next one. Anyway, but yeah, there's some really cool ones. I picked up a Jefferson's Reserve single barrel that was um, finished in Pritchard Hill wine barrels, and dude, it's super good. Like, you can definitely taste the wine influence. Now, if you're not into wine, if you're not into any of that stuff, I get it. Like, that's fine. Just drink the straight stuff that comes, off the shelf. I'm sure most distilleries, like if you, let's say you live in an area and there's a craft distillery that has some distribution, um, if they're making a finished whiskey, they're making a regular one as well. And they want you to taste them side by side, because that's what most distillers want. They want you to taste what the difference is with a sherry finish or a cognac finish or whatever. They want you to taste the differences in it, and that's why I like to side by side. If there's a new one, um, side by side it with its original partner as best you can, because sometimes it's a special release or something like that, and there's nothing that will compare to it. Um, but yeah, it's And then another cool thing uh, is, like Maker's Mark, they've been doing a stave program for a long time, and they, like the Maker's 46 was French oak, right? And see, so French oak is going to give more like spicier. I call it more tannic, more baking spice, more stuff like that. Um, so yeah, I mean that it's going to give you a lot of that. But then, like I just finished one. It was a single barrel pick, and it had a French mocha. I don't know what that meant. I don't know if it had coffee in it. I don't know if it had chocolate breasted. I don't even know what that means. But it had like a French mocha. It had a toasted. It had a previously used wine barrel, and they used different staves. So they would make a barrel out of 12 different staves, and then just and then age the whiskey or finish the whiskey in that, which I thought is really that's a pretty cool way to do it. And if you go ever, I've never been, but I've heard if you go to the distillery, you can actually pick your own profile, and they'll make a single barrel, obviously for a very large nominal fee. They'll make you a single barrel of whatever you pick, and it can be your pick, right? Which is really cool. I really think so. So what else they're doing is there obviously there's some beers out there that are finished, like a stout or something in a bourbon barrel. Well, then you take that barrel after the stout was in it, dump the stout. You don't have to dump it down the drain. You can drink it. And then you put more bourbon in it or rye whiskey in it or something like that. And like so literally the flavor profile is endless. You can do whatever. You know what I mean? And then when you get into like peated barrels, I've had whiskeys that were finished in a Lafroig barrel. Like what? A bourbon finished in a Lafroig barrel. That to me that's magic. And yeah, you do get the peat on the back end. You'll get that smokiness come through. It's definitely a bourbon, but it's definitely got some peat in it too. It's crazy to me like some of the things they're doing. And why are they doing that? Because no, well, for a couple of reasons. One, because they're trying to use up barrels that they have, hopefully, and try and reuse them and save on because barrels are expensive. Getting a new barrel, it's freaking expensive. So if you're able to reuse a barrel, um, why not? The product is actually not, it's not cheap, but the product is actually cheap putting it in there. It's paying all the taxes, paying for the barrels, paying for the warehousing, paying for the storage, all that stuff. That's what's expensive. The grains obviously are expensive, but and then the power to distill it and stuff like that, it's expensive. But like housing it in that barrel and then it starts leaking and then then you have a huge issue with it, but at the same time it's like yeah, why can't you? You know what I mean? Let's use as much as we can. So where do I see this going in the future with finishing? Now this is not what you would call a flavored whiskey, right? Flavored whiskey being, uh, like a pecan pie finished, or a fireball or a banana whiskey or Jack Daniel's Fire, No, we're not talking about those. Those are actually, they have flavorings added to them. So they are what they are called a distilled spirit specialty, like we talked about. Um, they are whiskey based, right? But they're not um, whiskey, anymore. Because as soon as you start adding to it, and that's the difference between a finishing barrel, because it's not adding, I mean, other than the flavor that's in that barrel, you're not adding any sugar or any other compounds to it. Whatever's in that barrel, it's taking out what it wants out of it. So, um, yeah, but when you once you start adding sugar or you start adding cinnamon or putting stuff into the barrel when when the whiskey's in there, That's finishing. Yeah. Um, Now one of the cool things, and I might have talked about this already. I don't remember. If I have, I'm sorry. Like Garrison Brothers, they did their honeydew, and basically what it is they take honey and put it in a barrel, and let it sit, and because it can be acidic sometimes. It gets into the wood, and then they dumped it out. They cleaned it all out. They didn't leave any honey behind, right? And dried it out, and then refilled it with their bourbon. And you would not believe how much honey flavor comes through with just that. And that's how it's not a flavored whiskey. It's a finished whiskey. Um, I know that's a delineation. It's a line item type thing, but at the same time, it's like there is a difference. Like I would very much want to drink a finished whiskey than a flavored whiskey. Not no shame to the flavored whiskey crew because they're doing some stuff that's pretty cool too. Like freaking Crown Royal with their salted caramel and their vanilla and all that stuff. Dude, that stuff is so smooth, so good. You put it on you have the Crown Vanilla and mix it with some Dr. Pepper. What? Are you serious? That'll kill somebody. Anyway, it's so smooth, so easy to drink. Like next thing you know, you're laying in a field naked. It's like, what the heck's going on? Anyway, I'm trying to think of another, flavored. I'm looking around my shed to see if I can find a flavored one for you. Finished, not flavored. I don't flavor, I finish. Oh man. Where are we at? Oh, let me see here. See, because they've been doing this sort of finishing method in Scotland for hundreds of years because they don't want that new oak. They don't want it. They don't want nothing to do with it. They're like, no, it's too tannic. It's too much. Our climate won't allow it to really get what it wants. You guys take it, um, and then when you're done with your nasty bourbon, bring it over here, and we'll put our good stuff in it. That's how they feel. Whatever. But you think, okay, so think about this. What did the Scotsmen do before bourbon was around, right? Before they were able to get those barrels. Well, they used wine barrels, right? They used wine or brandy or, whatever other barrels that were lying around over there. Because a barrel used to be just a form of transporting something. You put fish, dead bodies, pickles, whatever you want in there. You know what I mean? So it's not, it's just a watertight, sealable thing that you can put stuff in. You can put water in it. It doesn't matter. Sometimes if you put water in it, it'll get kind of brownish looking. It's kind of weird, but anyway, because when they use a finishing barrel, what they do is they fill them up with water to make sure they don't leak and let the wood expand a little bit because sometimes they've been sitting for a while, and sometimes that when that water comes out, man, it's woo, yeah, it's dark or it's stinky sometimes because there's no telling what's been in it, and so um, once you put the whiskey in it, though, you're talking over 50% alcohol going into it. It's gonna, if there was a microbe or something in there, it's gonna kill all of it. So anyway, all right, let's wrap this up. So barrel shortage, it's a thing. It's not a thing, but it's a thing. You know what I mean? I don't know. If y'all want to do the research on it, go ahead. It's an issue because I've talked to distilleries and stuff, and they say yeah, it's getting hard for us to find barrels, and it's getting hard for it's getting more expensive as well. So expect an increase in price of the bottle as well. Um, but they're going to continue to make them. They're going to find ways to make better barrels. So yeah, just try to do your homework on that a little bit before you purchase a bottle. Don't run out and just pick up the brand new thing. Try and get a sample of it. And that's why I try to do reviews and kind of like my take on whiskeys that are coming up, if I can get a hold of them, so that you guys know, hey, this one's good. It's got a little, issue with the flavor, or maybe the blah blah, so that you guys don't have to spend the extra money. I'll just do it, I guess. Oh, great. Anyway, and then finishing barrels. So yeah, I would recommend y'all go out and find especially a bourbon. Find you a bourbon that's finished in something. Angel's Envy is okay at best. You know what I mean? It's not great to me. I mean, if you might love it, it's okay. I would find something more in the Saints Alley genre. I know that's fanboyish, but at the same time, if you can find it, get some of those, because like you'll see the profile of it. Um, and if you're around like Kansas City, places like that, Jay Rieger is doing it's almost a fortified whiskey, where it has up to like 10% sherry or port in it, which is kind of weird, but kind of cool at the same time. Now that is a distilled spirit specialty, but anyway, um, so yeah, just play around with finding those bottles, and yeah, I'll try and do a finished bourbon in the near future, and then that way y'all can use it as a guideline to go from. But also, I'm gonna start posting videos on YouTube. Like I said, I'm gonna try and do a little more on there, just to get some more content out for everybody. And so I'm gonna do one today, on something. So make sure you stay tuned with that. I'm everywhere, literally everywhere. So just stay tuned to all those things. Um, but yeah, if you like this type of content, please leave a review, leave a 5-star review, please. If you're gonna review, I don't want any other ones, but I'm just joking. Tell me how you really feel, please. And then follow, like, subscribe on everything: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. I'm on Telegram. Whatever. Find me on there, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know how to use it, really. I went on there for a group, and then now they're talking to me. Anyway, long story short, yeah. What else? What else was there? I think that's it, right? Are we done? I don't know. Stay tuned to what's going on with all my socials and stuff like that, because I'm trying to release a lot more content out there and keep you guys informed. And if you like the news segment, and if you like the ranting and stuff like that, let me know about that. It only helps the show, helps me provide a better product for you, and it also helps to this show grow. And there's another thing that helps this show to grow, is you sharing this show with your friends. All of my content, share it all. That way we can get out there, and we can take the whiskey world by storm. Um, and yeah, we'll just go from there, and we'll leave it at that. And as always, guys, keep your spirits up. Love y'all.